الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I ask Allah to make this another beneficial sitting where we are trying to understand the adhkar of Rasulullah so that we can get closer to him and attain his mercy and his pleasure, Jalla wa ala. We have now reached, this is lesson 14 now, we have now reached الدعاء بعد التشهد الأخير قبل السلام. The dua that is to be supplicated with in the final tashahhud before a person makes the salam. This is chapter 24, and the author here has about 3 pages in the edition that I have of supplications that the Prophet ﷺ used to make. And this clearly shows that the Prophet ﷺ used to sit at length in making supplication at this time. He used to give it a lot of importance. And the ulama have said that this is from the hikmah of the Prophet ﷺ sitting in a tawarruk position rather than in the conventional iftirashan position, where now he would rest the side of his body on the earth so that he would have more comfort and he'd be able to sit for a longer duration. Chapter 24, the supplications that are to be said after the final tashahhud and before the tasleem. Sahabi Uqba bin Amr radiallahu anhu said, Amarani Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet sallallahu suggested or commanded or heavily suggested that an aqra bil maw'idat fi dubur kull salat, that I should seek refuge in Allah before I end every single prayer. And with this, some of the ulama have said that these supplications are actually even wajib. If a person misses it out on purpose, his salah is batil. Even though that's not the strongest opinion and it's not the preponderant opinion between all the ulama, it shows you the importance that some of the ulama have given. That seeking refuge before you make the tasleem is extremely important. And what we're going to see is what the Prophet ﷺ sought refuge in with these narrations that we have here. But what we learn so far, at least, that seeking refuge in Allah is from the greatest acts of ibadah that a person can do. This is how Allah completes His final revelation. He completes the Quran with 2 surahs which are seeking refuge in Allah, and this is a right that belongs only to Allah. And this is why some of the ulama have said that the order of the last 3 surahs in the Quran are placed in that position for that reason. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, who is your Lord? Allah is one, and He is unique, and He is samad, and He doesn't need the creation. He is not born, and He doesn't give birth, and there is nothing like Him. Then Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, seek refuge in Allah, the Lord of the falaq. And then An-Nas, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil nas. And I remember my Shaykh Salih Sudlan saying that the Tawheed in this last surah of the Quran is emphasized in a way almost not mentioned in any other surah in the Quran. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, rabbin nas, sifa, malikin nas, sifa, ilahin nas. So Allah has repeated again that He is the King and He is the Lord and He is the one who created. Again, Tawheed and Tawheed and Tawheed. So now we learn that seeking refuge in Allah has a huge emphasis in our aqeedah and the Tawheed that the slave has towards his Lord. But this then also has an impact on his actions and the fiqh. And this is what we're going to learn today, bi'idhnillah. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, talking about the tashahhud of the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the Prophet ﷺ told him to make dua before he finishes his prayer. And like we've said, that this is a very important place to make dua. In actual fact, some of the ulama say after the sajda, this is the most important place to make dua. Because the Prophet ﷺ told Ibn Mas'ud, ثُمَّ لِيَتَخَيَّرْ مِنَ الدُّعَاء مَا شَاءَ, that you should now choose and extend in making dua. Any kind of need that you have, make dua right now. Because this is the place that Allah is going to accept your dua. So now what we've learned so far is aqeedah is very important, your tawheed and your iman is very important. That creates then actions. And those actions then are translated into ambitions that a person has. And these ambitions and these things that we are very careful about and that we are very jealous about, and those things that we are very cautious on, are found in these supplications here. And the higher the iman, the higher the actions, and the higher the ambitions. The lower the iman, the lower the actions, and the lower the ambitions. If there is no iman, then there are no actions, and there are no ambitions in the akhirah or in the dunya for that matter. Hadith number 55, been recorded by Bukhari and Muslim, and this is the wording of Muslim. And this narration here has been narrated in different ways. So some of the ulama have said that if you say it in different ways, then this is fine. But we find that the Prophet ﷺ is seeking refuge in at least 4 things. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr, wa min adhab al-jahannam, wa min fitnati mahya wa mamat, wa min sharri fitnati masih ad-dajjal. And the next narration here, again Bukhari and Muslim, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr. Again, same sort of sequence. Wa a'udhu bika min fitnati masih ad-dajjal. In the first narration, Dajjal came last. Wa a'udhu bika min fitnati mahya wa mamat. This stays in its place. The third thing that the Prophet ﷺ sought refuge in, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-ma'tham wal-maghram. And now here we have an addition to the things that the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in. And in the next page, on hadith number 60, we have something else that the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in, but we'll get to that inshallah. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika. And we've looked at this before, and we looked at what Ibn al-Qayyim said before, but briefly, Allahumma is, oh Allah, you are supplicating to Allah alone. And these 2 words have actually been put together. Oh and Allah, in the Arabic language now, has made one word. And this shows you the emphasis and the importance of supplicating to Allah alone. Because there is no conjunction in this manner. I mean, 2 words have been put together to mean one meaning. Shows you the importance of supplicating to Allah. Allahumma inni, as a certainly and as an assurance that I am seeking refuge in you, O Allah. A'udhu, like we said, Ibn al-Qayyim said that when you are scared of something, you seek refuge in that thing that you are scared of. But ta'awudh in Allah, seeking refuge in Allah, means that you seek a refuge from something that you are scared of, and you say, oh Allah, protect me from that thing. But after that thing has been removed from me, make me better from the situation that I was from before. And this is one of the ajaib and the strangest things when you make dua. One of the amazing consequences that you can have and the amazing results that you'll find in your life in making dua to Allah. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr. And adhab al-qabr, no, this is proof, this is in Bukhari and Muslim, that every single one of us will move on from a life of existence to a life beyond this life. Now if you think about where we are now, when Adam alayhi salam was created, where were we? Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Our souls have been created, etc. Fair enough. But nobody knew what a Hisn was, a Hisn story. Nobody knew who Ariff Olla was. Nobody knew of this. It was nothing that anybody ever even thought of. It wasn't something to be even conceived. So how long have you been in that state of non-existent and nobody even knows who you are? You can't even be imagined. Your name has no weight. To the extent that people won't even think of your name because nobody even knows, nobody even thinks about that. It's so irrelevant. And we stayed in that state for thousands, if not billions of years. Between us and the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's 1,440 years of nobody not knowing who me and you are. So imagine how many prophets and messengers came before that, and from the time of Adam alayhi salam, only Allah knows how many generations we have been in preference, as in we've been prepared to come into the dunya, but yet you are not existent. And how many after us is going to happen also. That's the first stage of your existence. Then the soul comes down with the angel and is breathed into your mother's womb. That happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 35 years ago for certain people. And for others longer, and for others shorter. The angel comes down with your soul and breathes in. how will you be attached to your body in this dunya? 5 years, 10 years, some people not even that, they get miscarriage. And we now treasure, and this is one of the things our religion teaches us also, that those people who are the eldest, you should respect them. Respect them for at least their age, but if not at least their age, then their experience and their wisdom and their ilm and their piety and the fact that their white hairs have come because of Iman, and their lifespan has gone throughout stages based on Iman. And this is one of the things that we're proud of as a religion. We respect our elders, even if they are not religious, and the more religious they are, the more they are brought to the forefront. So we can say now safely, like today, the most wisest of people, 90 years old, 80 years old. What happens after that? They go into the grave. So now, for a person to become the most wise amongst humankind, it takes about 80, 90 years, roughly, generally speaking. Then, every single one of us will go into the qabr. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in being disgraced and punished in that state. Because now, the Prophet ﷺ has been in his grave for 1,430 years. How old is he in his life of the grave? 1,430 years old. Abu Bakr, who died at 63, 1,428 years old. So now let's ask this question again. Who is the most wise? If you take out Abu Bakr right now, he's 1,428 years old in his new life, and you ask him, what would he be able to tell you about his new life in the grave? That's Abu Bakr. Let alone those pious who came before us. Isa, who's not dead yet, but before him, Musa, Yahya, that came during the lifetime of Isa alayhi salam. The point that we're making here, that 90 years of somebody being wise is completely irrelevant in the greater scheme of things. We've been on standby to come into the dunya for millions, maybe billions of years. Only Allah knows best. You've stayed in this dunya for a maximum of 90, 100 years, let's say. You've had a very good life if you're 100 years old. 100 years, but then how long will you stay in the grave for? Your life in the grave will be for thousands and thousands of years. And then you will be resurrected for what? No time. No time. Time doesn't exist anymore. So what are you going to trade 70, 80 years in for? This is the question now. In the qabr, you're going to be there for thousands. I don't know it's best, but for thousands years old. So your life in this dunya for 20, 30, 40, 50 years left that we have left is absolutely irrelevant. And the smallest part of your existence. The smallest part of your existence. Because you waited on standby for billions of years, and then you will be in the grave for thousands of years, and then you'll be in a place where there is no time. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr. So the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in that station there, because that is the turning point. If a person goes into his qabr, and the qabr is made easy for him, then the rest will be easy. And if a person goes into his qabr and it is not made easy for him, then the rest will be difficult. And he will then move on to a period of his life where there is no time. And the adhab al-qabr, or the na'im al-qabr, the goodness of the qabr, the bliss of the qabr, or the punishment of the qabr, may Allah protect us and our families from this, begins when a person is buried and the soul is still attached to his body. And it goes up and it comes back down. And it's attached to his body until he is placed in the grave. And they cover him up, and he will hear the footsteps of all those people around him walking away. He will hear the footsteps walking away. And that signifies to him that it's over. Soon after that, and not long after that, some of the narrations say, and some of the ulama say that these narrations are weak, others have accepted them, that an angel will come down with canines the size of mountains, let's say, huge canines, and they will cast open your grave with those canines. So you can imagine now, a frightful state if you were to see a lion in front of you. The thing that you'd be looking at is not his eyes or his ears or his tail, the canines. That's the scariest part. That's how the angels will introduce themselves to you when you are in your grave. Muslim, non-Muslim. Pious, non-pious. It's irrelevant at this stage. So they will open up your grave with their canines, 2 of them. And they will have a frightful looking face and a stern looking face, not welcoming. Now you tell me now, when you're in that situation, what is going to get you through it? And the Prophet ﷺ has told us here that the only thing that is going to get you through it is your iman. The stronger your iman, the stronger you will be in front of those giants that come in front of you. The weaker the iman, then the more you will waver. It's not about your strength anymore. It's not about how much you own anymore. It's strictly about your iman. And if your iman is strong, you know what the person with a strong iman will say? He's gone to sleep. He's had footsteps and he's now lying down. And the soul has been restored to you. What happens when the soul is restored to you? What do you do when the soul is restored to you on a daily basis? What do you do when the soul is restored to you? Is it now you put your phone off or you get up and you just carry on and get ready, go in the shower and go to work? Or is there something more important than that when the soul is restored to you? Or do you prepare your soul to be restored for a particular reason? All of that will then partially determine on how you will be on that day. Because the Prophet ﷺ explained to us in a hadith in the Sunan that the person will then be awoken by these 2 giants and he will rub his eyes and he will say in the face of these 2 giants, "Leave me alone, it's time to pray. Leave me alone, it's time to pray." Irrespective of the size of these teeth, irrespective of the size of these giants and these angels and how stern they look, and how frightful their appearance will be, and how severe the punishment will be upon you, and it doesn't even matter to them. Your level of iman will say to them, "Leave me alone, I need to pray." Similar to what Umar radiallahu anhu said, they're going to question me, I want to question them. This is the level of iman, and this is the only thing that's going to save you on that day. وَمِنْ عَذَابِ الْقَبْرِ وَمِنْ عَذَابِ جَهَنَّمِ. The Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge from the hellfire a great deal. And he commanded once, when he was sitting around his companions, he spent one whole day explaining about the signs of the hour and the coming of the Dajjal and all these things. The end of times, one whole day. From Fajr, the companions said, we sat in Masjid al-Nabawi until Isha. We didn't go home. The only time we had a break was for Salat. And Prophet ﷺ was explaining the whole day what's the steps, what's going to happen, and then that's it. The hour is going to be established. And when he did that, he was telling his companions, seek refuge in Adhab al-Qabr, and they repeated after him, O Messenger of Allah, we seek refuge in Allah from Adhab al-Qabr. And the same thing he did with Adhab al-Jahannam. So he used to see a lot of importance in it, in his prayers and outside of his prayers, and he also taught his companions the same thing. But the question now is, we seek refuge from Adhab al-Jahannam, and we will never really see Jahannam until Yawm al-Qiyamah. May Allah protect us from this. But sufficient for us now. This is the question I want to ask you. How terrible must be a thing when that thing seeks refuge in Allah from its own self? How terrible must be that thing? That it doesn't seek refuge in anything else. The dua that Jahannam makes itself to Allah is, oh Allah, seek refuge in you from the heat and the rage of my own self. Prophet ﷺ said, اشتكت النار إلى ربها. It complained to its Lord. And it said, يا ربي أقل بعدي بعضا. Part of me is so intense that it's eating other parts of me which are not as intense. So what we learn from this now, the Prophet ﷺ has taught us that the hellfire is real and it talks and it is so severe that it's complaining to its Lord about its own severity. So what chance do we stand? After going past the Adhab al-Qabr, and like we've said, the only thing that's going to get you through Iman, what about when you actually see actual punishment? The Qabr is just the life of the barzakh, that's not your internal life. So imagine if you're in a bad situation there, it's just like you're having adhab in the dunya. I'm not trying to say it's the same thing, but it's not the final, it's not the end. How about when the end is seeking refuge in Allah from itself? وَمِنْ أَذَابِ جَهَنَّمْ وَمِنْ فِتْنَةِ مَحْيَا وَمَمَاتِ. And the ulama have differed as to what fitna actually means. And the correct opinion is fitna doesn't actually have a fixed definition. Fitna sometimes means punishment. Fitna sometimes means a trial. Fitna can sometimes mean something which is actually good that you are being tested with. But here the Prophet ﷺ is talking about fitnat al-mahya wa mamat, the evil things or the things that could potentially affect the well-being of your life in the dunya and when you are about to leave it in your final moments. And from this now we can learn, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah said, the hikmah of the salat. And we've talked about the hikmah and the correlation of every single part, and we can learn this one also, is that the way you end your salat is the way you end your life. Prophet ﷺ is seeking here refuge in certain things. And one of those things is seeking refuge in fitna, being tested and trialed in a way that he won't be able to manage whilst he's in the dunya and before he's about to be taken. Is exactly the way that you should be praying your salat. You should be praising Allah from the outset. You should be supplicating to Him. You should be reciting His words and contemplating and trying to benefit from them. Bowing and praising Him and showing His majesty, making supplication and sujood. And then when you are ending your life, what's going to happen? The way that you've ended your salah, Ibn Qayyim is saying. If your salah is rushed and hastened, and you're probably even thinking about something else, what's going to happen in your deathbed? It's going to be rushed and hastened, you're going to be thinking about something else. Hence we seek refuge in Allah from the fitna of our lives that we are leading right now, so that it doesn't distract us, but when we need it the most, the precursor to the life in the qabr and Jahannam is when we are in our stages of mamat. Therefore, salat can help you to remove negligence and jahl from yourself, and that's why this dua is probably one of the most important things that a person does in his salat after the arkan. وَمِن شَرِّ فِتْنَةِ مَسِيحِ الدَّجَّالِ. Here now we have another proof. وَمِن شَرِّ فِتْنَةِ. Shar is evil and fitna is a test. So sometimes fitna could actually be something which is good for you. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying here that if you are alive and the Dajjal comes, it's going to be a fitna, but that actually fitna might actually make you something that is better. It might actually elevate you. It might make you go on to the right side with, the people who are guided. So fitna doesn't necessarily always mean something which is negative, but the Prophet ﷺ here is saying, وَمِن شَرِّ فِتْنَةِ, the evil of the tests and the tribulations that will happen when the Dajjal will come. Who is the Dajjal? The Dajjal comes from Dajjala, which means that he is an impostor and he is a liar. Because first he will claim to be somebody who is pious, somebody you should be following, somebody who's got a great deal of ilm and hikmah and all these things. Then he will change his story and say, no, actually I'm a prophet. Then he will change his story and should say that he is actually Lord and Allah Himself. Now you might think that, okay, well I'll never believe in something like that. I'll reject him if I see him, but it's not like that. To the extent that the Prophet ﷺ has said that his fitna, no one and no ummah has actually seen ever on this earth. And every single Nabi that came warning about the fitna of the Dajjal. And he is called al-Masih, as we have here. And the ulama have said he is Masih because he will spread the earth like you spread your hand over this carpet. That's how frequent his traveling will become and his fitna will become. And he will have with him magicians, and he will have with him entertainers, and he will have with him a large army of women. Large army of women. Now here's another question that we need to be frank with ourselves. How many people are tested when it comes to the opposite gender, or even women with men? And it's intensifying, there's no doubt about that. And we know that. Whether we admit it or not, we know that. 8-year-olds are raping other 6-year-olds, and even younger than that now I've heard. And the news is quite common. Fitna. This is a fitna. The Prophet ﷺ also said that there will be 3 intense battles. And these battles will be world wars. It's not going to be a situation where it's just going to be isolated. Everybody is going to be affected by this because he is the Masih. And the Prophet ﷺ said that some will be for them and some will be against us. The Masih, Dajjal, will win some of them and he will lose some of them. And he said that there are going to be 3 very important places that he is going to fight in. Bahrain, Hijaz, Makkah, Medina, that area, and Egypt. Makkah, Medina, that area, the east, western Saudi Arabia. And in these three locations, some of them are going to be for the Muslims and some of them are not going to be for the Muslims. And we know that this fitna is going to be intense because the Prophet ﷺ warned us already that only a small number will escape. Only a small number will escape the fighting, and only a small number will escape being defeated. He also said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in explaining the situation at that time, that people won't have much clothing, they won't much have food, not much to drink, not much provisions. They'll be living off rations for a very long period of time. The first day will be like 40 years, then like a month, then like a week, and then it will continue. That's how long and intense it will be. And the Prophet ﷺ said that this will continue. Even though the Mahdi will be there, this will continue until Isa alayhi salam will come. And then Isa alayhi salam will come and Dajjal will run away from him until Isa will catch up with him and he will supplicate to Allah without even raising a sword. He will disintegrate and dissolve in front of the eyes of Isa alayhi salam and the Muslimin by the virtue and the fadl of Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ also said, after the coming of Isa, look at all these changes, look at this change now also. After the coming of Isa, Ahl al-Kitab will cease to exist. Either you will be a believer or disbeliever. And Allah makes mention of this in Surah An-Nisa, وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لِيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ. That there is no one from Ahl al-Kitab except that they will believe in him or disbelieve in him before he himself, Isa alayhi salam, will pass away. So what this teaches us now, the fitna is going to be very, very intense. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in the end of his prayer. The second narration is very similar to that, but he also has an addition now. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-ma'tham wal-maghram. And ma'tham and maghram, both of them refer to harm, whether it's self-harm or harm of other people. And ma'tham here refers to sin. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika, O Allah, I seek refuge in you from the sins that I commit and the sins that are made fair seeming to me. And if you see the context of this in the series, he seeks refuge in Adhab al-Qabr, then he seeks refuge from the Dajjal, because Dajjal, when he comes, all of these sins that we have, that we know of, and the sins that we don't know of, will be made fair seeming to you, and be made beautified to you. It's going to be intensified. You think it's difficult right now, it's going to get even worse, the way that it's going to be beautified. The Prophet ﷺ sought refuge in the Adhab al-Qabr, and then the fitna of Mahya wa Mamat, and then, the Dajjal, and then Mahya wa Mamat, and then from sinning. So you can see the concept, what am I looking for? The sequence, thank you. The sequence that the Prophet ﷺ is using here. Punishment in the life, punishment before you are dying on your deathbed, punishment in the grave, punishment in the fire. And all of this stems from the ma'tham that you have from yourself. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-ma'tham. And Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said that there are 3 ways to the hellfire. He summarized it for us. Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him and accept it from him, and we continue benefiting from him and all of our ulama. 3 ways to the hellfire. Now you might think, okay, well, there's a Kitab Kabair which is talking about hundreds and hundreds of major sins, etc. But the Shaykh here, rahimahullah, has summarized it in 3 ways. Number 1, something which makes you doubt the certainty and the validity of your religion. That's called shubuhat. Does Allah actually exist? Did the Prophet ﷺ actually get it wrong? Yeah, I believe that the hadith, some of them are very good morals and characteristics and, meanings and values, yeah, but some of them I'm not sure about. How can I wear the hijab every single? How can I cover my face? Shubuhat. And if you don't try to understand the religion and you let that get bigger and bigger and bigger, it's a way to the hellfire. And he makes a comparison now. That the first person who had shubuhat was Iblis. And instead of trying to rectify it, it created arrogance and pride. And this continues from that moment where it was commanded to make sujood to Allah, and it will continue for, Allah knows the best, like we've said. How long is Iblis and how long is Adam? Billions of years, some people say, maybe more than that. The point here is, one way to the hellfire is when you have a doubt. Another way to the hellfire is shahawat. And shahawat are your sins, are your desires, are your weaknesses. And in the incident between Iblis and Adam, we also have another example of how somebody slipped up, but it wasn't because of the shubuhat, it was because of the shahawat. Iblis slipped up because he had a problem in his aqeedah. He had an actual problem. He challenged Allah in his aqeedah. Why should I make sujood to this thing that you're telling me to make sujood to? That's an aqeedah point. Adam slipped up because of shahawat, not because of shubuhat. It was a desire. Iblis came and made it fair seeming. All of that is within its own story. But Adam didn't disobey Allah because he was trying to be arrogant and he had a doubt in the validity of the aqeedah. No, it was a sin that he made because of the weakness that he had. Second path to Jahannam is shahawat. But now, if you look at the difference, Iblis, he was told to make tawbah, he didn't make tawbah. Aba wastakbar, he didn't. He was proud to turn back to Allah. Adam, Allah taught him how to make tawbah until it was accepted from him. So now we have a very stark contrast between these two, even though both of them are path to Jahannam. And the third one that he puts down here is arrogance. He's put down actually ghadab, which is actually killing, anger, and he gives examples of killing and etc. But this all, for me, stems up from an idea of arrogance and pride. And when a person has that, just like all three of these things, he doesn't realize that he's got a problem, then he's not on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And if you look at that, then that can summarize for us what ma'tham is. Where are we? Are we in one? Are we in two? Are we in three? Wa na'udhu billah, we're in all three. Allah protect us and give us a way out and make us firm upon the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And he also used to supplicate, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-ma'tham wal-maghram. And maghram is to seek a debt. And again, we were talking about harm to yourself and harm to people around you. Now, a debt can be something that you're doing for the sake of Allah, to the extent that the Prophet ﷺ used to take debts out for the sake of Allah. So he genuinely didn't have any money, so he used to say to his brother, give me such and such, this is a debt that I have on you, and then everything that he'd get from that loan, he used to spend it for the sake of Allah. That is commendable if you are able to have some kind of backup. And we know this from the ulama, and this continues until to this very time. And this generation that we have just seen, Shaykh ibn Baz rahimahullah used to take thousands and thousands, and even millions I've heard, of debt so that he can spend for the sake of Allah. That is not what is questionable. The questionable point here, or the blameworthy kind of debt, Allah talks about those people who take the debt and they are very easygoing in it. To the very extent that the longest ayah in the Quran is about debts. Not about tawheed, or praying salat, how to pray salah, and the way that you'd think rationally that would probably be in there, how to pray salah and the movement. And the longest ayah in the Quran is about loans and debts. And what we learn from this now is that when you become easygoing in the shubuhat and the shahawat and the ghadab and the kibr, and you become easygoing in taking debts and start usurping people's money, and you become financially relaxed and you don't care about your halal and haram, all of that opens the door to nifaq afterwards. And debt in particular, some of the ulama have said, the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in it because it can also, like we said, nifaq, but also maybe the lesser nifaq where the person ends up lying and cheating. The person might have iman, and I take a loan from him, and then I start avoiding him because I need to pay him back. Or he says, where's my money? And he start lying. And those kind of things. And it could also lead to breaking of ties. And in a nutshell, I'm sure you can think of many great evils that it can create to a person's iman, and to even their household, and even to society in general. And some of the ulama have said that it can even lead to riba, where the person who has given the loan says, look, I want some more now. I want some more now. Or let's agree that if you spend too long in paying me back, then I'm going to get some more. Or the person himself goes out and gets a riba-based loan to pay off other people. And then we live in this bubble of credit. And there's many research even now that, most of the people's wealth in this country is based on credit. And there's a correlation between people getting everything on credit, even their mobile phones on credit now. They don't even actually own it. They're paying in installments. And a correlation between that and mental disorders and depression and anxiety and all those kind of things. The Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in not having that. And the Prophet ﷺ always used to spend within his means, eat within his means, wear within his means, etc. And the deeper meaning that we learn from all of this is that the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us here, in al-ma'tham wal-maghram, and all the other things that we've seen also from before, from the adhab al-qabr and Masih al-Dajjal and the Mahya and the fitna Mahya and Mamat, is that the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us very important life values. Whether you're an adult, whether you're a child, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're weak, whether you're able, the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us here that your life in the dunya is not the reason why you are being created. Therefore don't sin. Don't be from the ma'tham. Don't be from the maghram. Don't be taking all these debts so that you can live and have a luxurious life in the dunya. As the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us here, that you've been created for a greater purpose. And he's to seek refuge in Allah from being materialistic and shallow. And he's to seek refuge in Allah that all of these then will have a consequence when it comes to the battle that you have with shaitan and the Dajjal and the adhab al-qabr. Because the Dajjal is not just going to come upon you just like that and you think, I've got a strong iman, I can read Arabic and say kafir on his forehead and that's it, khalas. The Dajjal are going to have forerunners, and the Dajjal are going to have shayateen that are going to be supporting him, and the battle is going to intensify, and we can see some of those things that are happening already. And the prophecy that the Prophet ﷺ has told us about and talked about at length from the minor signs of the Day of Judgment. Hadith number 57 is the hadith of Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, narrated in Bukhari and Muslim, that he taught the Prophet ﷺ that he taught Abu Bakr to say, Allahumma inni dhalamtu nafsi dhulman kathira. He taught Abu Bakr, had his iman been weighed up with the iman of the ummah. How many in the ummah today? 2 billion. How many tomorrow? The projection is that by 2050, Islam will be the majority of the globe. So going on, let's say in 30 years' time, how much will it be? 4 billion, let's say. 5 billion, let's say. How many before us, from the time of the Prophet ﷺ until now? Let's say a moderate 10 billion. The iman of one man compared to 20 billion, who's going to win? The iman of Abu Bakr. And that's just a rough, a very moderate calculation. The Prophet ﷺ taught him, Allahumma inni dhalamtu nafsi dhulman kathira. Oh Allah, I have oppressed myself a great deal of oppression. وَلَا يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبِ إِلَّا أَنْتَ. So what does this first line teach us? This first line teaches something which is very important between you and your connection between Allah, and what servitude actually is. Point number 1 is confession. Confession to your weakness, confession to your negligence. But you can only do that if you're actually thinking about Allah. If you're just saying this, and you're just praying salah without actually thinking who Allah is, and what Allah actually thinks of you, and what Allah is going to accept or not accept, and what Allah is going to give you in the akhirah, then really all of these things just become robotic and systematic. Point number 1, you have to have that connection with Allah, whether it's for 5 minutes a day, whether it's longer than that. You need to set what it should actually be in every single salah, as we see here. But even if that's difficult for some people, at least one moment in your day, say, oh Allah, I have done such and such, and this is how I am. This is how I've been with my life, and I submit my weakness to you. Maybe it's one action that we've done today. Maybe it's something that you've just always done. But Allah, I submit myself in weakness. That's one of the biggest things when it comes to servitude. What is ibadah? What is your relationship with Allah? Confession. Point number 1. وَلَا يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبِ إِلَّا أَنْتَ. Point number 2, Tawheed. Oh Allah, there is nothing, ever, that can forgive my sins except you. You are Ghaffar, you are Tawwab, you are Rahman, etc. You are the one that shows mercy and forgives, etc. I can't ask an idol. I can't ask another human being. I can't ask a prophet. There's no, where am I supposed to turn to? I have done such and such thing wrong, and it is my habit to smoke, O Allah. It is my habit to do drugs, O Allah. It's my habit to look at things that are haram. I'm admitting myself to you, Ya Allah. So forgive me, because there is nobody else that can help me. You can see the servitude now. You can see the ibadah now. You can see the fragrance that's coming out of this. فَاغْفِرْ لِي مَغْفِرَةً مِنْ إِنْدِكَ. Istighfar, amal, action. And here we have istighfar as an action. But if you connect all three of these, so now Ramadan is coming. Now the next salah is coming, Salatul Fajr. Now sadaqah is going to happen. There's a chance for you to give in sadaqah. All of this is ibadah. Number 1, oh Allah, you have given me this wealth. I'm not sure if I actually deserve it. Oh Allah, you have given me this wealth, and I don't actually need it, somebody else needs it. Now you are looking at your level of weakness and confession with Allah. The next thing, oh Allah, you are the one who has given me this wealth, or you are the one I am praying to. Whatever that act of worship that you are seeking to do, the second stage after confession is Tawheed. Learn Allah's names and His attributes and His actions and His rights that He has upon us. The third thing, you follow all that. Do you go back to sleep? No, you have to follow up with action. فَاغْفِرْ لِي. Now you're making a verbal supplication. Oh Allah, forgive me with a maghfirah min indik, with a forgiveness that comes only from you. وَارْحَمْنِي. Oh Allah, have mercy on me. إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And this is the best form of tawassul and ibadah that a person can ever gain. And before moving on to the next hadith, there's actually an incident which has all three of these mentioned in the Quran. And when Iblis heard this ayah come down, he wept like he's never wept before. Allah revealed an ayah when the companions were asking, after making confession, they went to the Prophet ﷺ and they said, we've done such and such actions, etc. The Prophet ﷺ instructed them to go back to their Lord with tawbah. Now, we have to remember that the companions are not just going to go back to Allah and verbally just say, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you and I seek istighfar from you. There is that connection. There's that. Those three things were there. The ayah was revealed, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً. Those people who commit an act of lewdness and an act of wronging, أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسُهُم, or they have done something wrong against themselves. So fahisha is talking about more of a sexual kind of lewdness kind of thing, or he's just committed a normal sin which is not sexual. ذَكَرُوا اللَّهِ. They remember Allah. After that, there's that level of confession, submission and weakness. فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ. The second thing they do with Tawheed, they have Tawheed. وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبِ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Tawheed is there. And who is there that can forgive besides Allah? Tawheed is there. The names and the attributes of Allah. وَلَمْ يُسِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. And then they don't continue in that stage. They don't go back to that sin on purpose. If they do it out of weakness and there's a genuine slip, that's fine. But in their head, they don't think, well, I'm going to make istighfar, but then tomorrow I'm going to do it anyway. Or I'm going to delete all these apps and all these things that I'm looking at because it's Ramadan. But after Ramadan, I'm going to come back definitely. Not going to sign, I'm just signing out. The ayah is saying, وَلَمْ يُسِرُّوا. There is no continuation. That weakness, that tawheed and that action is of substance. And if they were to fall again, they repeat that cycle again. And this is what made Iblis cry. It's in the tafasir that when he heard this, he screamed. Iblis, he screamed. He screamed to the people that were around him, bijunud, to the people, his army around him. Now we have to remember, the point that I want to make here is, again, what's probably more terrifying, Iblis or a lion? Or Iblis was the most terrifying sight that you have seen. Allah has made this person so wretched, this jinn so wretched and so evil. Maybe his sounds and the way he looks, etc., and it's hidden from us, and this is why the ulama have said that the world of the jinn is hidden from us out of a rahmah for us. Because we would then be in a constant state of fear and not able to process all those things that are happening. And this is the most evil of the jinn. Saha Iblis bi junudihi, he screamed to the people that were around him. And he got sand and he got dust and he threw it on himself. And this is something that the Arabs do a lot. They throw dust if they want to humiliate a person as a form of symbolism. And he did it to himself. And he started supplicating to himself that he be cursed. He cursed himself. And he cursed himself to destruction. Destroyed are you yourself, Iblis. This is how even despicable this person is. Until the rest of his junood started coming from the land and from the sea. From the land and from the sea. And now they were all, because of the scream, you can imagine how violent that scream probably was, all of his troops have now gathered around him because of what he is doing to himself. He is screaming at the top of his lungs and making dua against himself. So they said, فَقَالُوا Malik Sayyidina. They say to him, our king, our master. وَإِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, may Allah protect us from this. What's wrong with you? He said, an ayah has been revealed from the book of Allah, that if they were to act upon this ayah, none of them from Bani Adam will be harmed by their sin. None of them from Bani Adam will be harmed by their sin. Let's remind ourselves about this ayah. If they do an act of lewdness, looking at something which is haram, or even something greater than that, or they have sinned themselves by another sin, which is not sexual, dhakarullah. They remember Allah. As soon as they've finished, or maybe even they're doing it, they remember Allah whilst doing it, and they remember Allah, and that helps them to stay away. They remember Allah, and that helps them repel. فَاسْتَغْفِرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ. They make an action. So now here we have those three things again. A confession, وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبِ إِلَّا اللَّهُ, tawheed, وَلَمْ يَسِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. And they follow up that action with sincerity that they will never do it again. If they were to continue doing that, لَا يَذُرُّ بَعْدَهَا أَحَدٌ مِّن بَنِي آدَمْ ذَنْبٍ. He said that none from Bani Adam will ever be affected by their sin. Why is that important to Iblis? Because Iblis has sworn to Allah a false oath that he is going to take every single one of us to the hellfire. Just you watch. There's nobody's going to follow these prophets that you're going to send. Nobody's going to listen to your box. Everyone's going to come with me. Don't worry about that. And he swore by Allah. For the izzatik, he said, by your honor as well. So they said, what is this ayah? The junud, the people around Iblis, what is this ayah? Recite to us. So he told them about the ayah. Iblis, he's telling them about the book of Allah. This is your enemy. He knows more about the book of Allah than people who actually believe in the book of Allah. And he's able to understand it, and those three things, more than people who are huffaz from these 2 billion that we have today. فَأَخْبَرَهُمْ. So he told them, قَالُوا, and they said, let's open the troops around Iblis now. They said, let's open a way. نَفْتَحْ لَهُمْ أَبْوَابَ الْهَوَى. Let's open a way which will make them follow their desires without them even realizing it. Follow their desires and get rid of these three things slowly. Make it weak without them. فَلَا يَتُوبُونَ وَلَا يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. So now they think what they're doing is fine. Why are you doing tawbah and istighfar for? You have anything to, I've not done anything wrong. I'm on Twitter all day. There's no istighfar. Why? It's halal. I can sit and watch a football game for 2 hours. Halal. I never need to make istighfar for watching people with the aura up and wasting time, even if the auras are covered and you're not looking at it. Wasting time. There's no istighfar for that. The Prophet ﷺ, when he used to go to the bathroom for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, when he used to come out, he used to say what? You looked at this before. Ghufranak. Why? Oh Allah, forgive me for not being able to remember you just for 5 minutes. How about 2 hours? How about 4 hours? How about being in the restaurant, having a nice time, and there's all this haram going around them, and they're there optionally. I'm not saying that maybe some people are forced to be in that position. Fair enough. There is a maslaha. However, they said, the army of Iblis said to him, they calmed him down. They said, stop crying, stop supplicating to yourself. We have a plan. We've always had a plan against Bani Adam, we've got to plan another one. نَفْتَحْ لَهُمْ أَبْوَابَ الْخَوَافِ. Let's open a door for them so that they can have all those indulgences. فَلَا يَتُوبُونَ وَلَا يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. There is no tawbah and there is no istighfar. وَلَا يَرَوْنَ إِلَّا أَنَّهُمْ الْحَقِّ. They will not think anything that their lifestyle is anything wrong with it. This is the haqq that Allah has created me for. It's my purpose of creation. وَلَا يَرَوْنَ إِلَّا أَنَّهُمْ الْحَقِّ. Twitter, 5 hours a day. WhatsApp, 10 hours a day. He even calculates it for you now. There's apps there that calculate it for you on Apple, etc. They tell you how much time you've been on the phone, etc. All of this is the haqq. This is Sirat al-Mustaqim. I pray my 5 times a day. I'm wearing a hijab. I got a beard. I go to the masjid. What more do you want from me? How much do you want me to sacrifice? I'm going to be miserable. What do you want from me? وَلَا يَرَوْنَ إِلَّا أَنَّهُمْ الْحَقِّ. So then Iblis, فَرَضِيَ مِنْهُمْ ذَلِكَ. Iblis got happy. A moment ago he was crying because of the ayah from the Kitab of Allah. Now the suggestions that the people that were around him, and it shows you the severity of having bad people around you without even thinking about how bad they are. They created a plan to deceive us. This has happened from the unseen. To make you live a lifestyle where you think that you're doing absolutely nothing wrong. There is no confession between you and Allah. There is no tawheed between you and Allah. Or is weak. And there is no action. And with that state of life, you are upon the haqq. And there is no need for istighfar and tawbah. Hadith number 58. اللهم اغفر لي ما قدمت وما أخرت وما أسررت وما أعلنت وما أسرفت وما أنت أعلم به مني أنت المقدم وأنت المؤخر لا إله. Allah, I seek forgiveness in you from the things I've done in the past and the things that I'm yet to do. Again, look at that. Look at this. You have these 3 things. You have the weakness and you have the tawhid and you have the amal. But you know yourself you are weak and you're going to fall again. You know that. The point here is that you never sin again. That's not the point. The point here is that you live a life of misery. That's not the point. The point here is that you understand these 3 things. That's what the reason why you have been created. And if you slip again, you go back to understanding these 3 things because that's your salvation. The things I've done in the past and the things I'm yet to do that I know I'm going to make a mistake in. It's a hadith of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Been narrated in Sahih Muslim. Prophet ﷺ taught him, Allahumma gfir li ma qaddamt wa ma akhart. The things I've done before and the things I'm yet to do. Wa ma asrat. The things that I've done inside. Only you know, Ya Allah. Wa ma a'lant. And the things that I've done that everybody can see that I've done. Wa ma asraft. And those things that I've done out of being excessive. Wa ma anta a'lamu bihi minni. And what you know about me that I don't even know about myself. I seek refuge and istighfar from you in this. And now we looked at istighfar also before. When you say Allahumma gfirli, oh Allah have mercy on me, oh Allah forgive me, Allahumma gfirli, Allah forgive me. What that means is 3 things. Number 1, oh Allah don't expose me. Number 2, oh Allah save me and protect me from the punishment, because maghfirah comes from maghfir. Maghfir is a helmet that you wear. The protection, an armor. Oh Allah, make this as an armor, make you and your maghfirah as an armor between me and the hellfire. Point number 2. And point number 3, oh Allah, after not exposing me and not punishing me, change me from this. Change me from this. وَمَا أَنْتَ أَعْلَمُ بِهِ. You know about me the things that I'm doing wrong. I don't even know. And I could be living my life, speaking in a manner, behaving in a manner, my body language, my actions, and I'm doing something which is wrong. It doesn't befit a Muslim to do that. It doesn't befit a person that you love to do that. Oh, well, I'll change that from me without me even knowing it. وَمَا أَنْتَ أَعْلَمُ بِهِ مِنْ أَنْتَ الْمُقَدِّمُ. And you are the muqaddim and you are the muakhir. La ilaha illa ant. Muqaddim means that you know what comes before everything. And you are muakhir, you know everything that's going to, how things are going to end up. You know that. And some of the ulama have said that muqaddim means you have always been worshipped, whether my istighfar and my worship is accepted or not. And you are the muakhir, whether we accept you or deny you, it doesn't change your majesty. So there are 2 meanings here between muqaddim and muakhir. Either it's talking about Allah or either it's talking about the slave itself. And the last point here, before we finish, is that what we learn from this hadith is that like we've said before, tawassul, which is prescribed in our religion, with its conditions, has been legislated here. That, oh Allah, I admit my mistake to you, and I admit and I glorify your names and your attributes, so give me success. That's the formula. And through this tawassul we have here is the eternalness of Allah. That He was before anything, and whether we worship Him or not, He's always been there. And whether we worship Him or not, He will always continue to be there. And this, because Allah is eternal, means to us now that He is absolutely perfect. So what we are asking here in this, oh Allah, you've always been there and you will always continue to be there. You have always been perfect and you will continue to be perfect. I have never always been there, and I will not always continue to be there. I have never been perfect. There's never been a stage in my life where I'm absolutely perfect, whether it's in the past or whether it's in the future. So show mercy on us, O Allah, because of your eternalness and because of your protection and your perfection. Because we will never attain perfection, and it's only through your mercy we will be saved through your eternalness and through your perfection. And if you wanted to, Ya Rabbana, you could punish us. But your perfection and your eternalness and your mercy and your sabr with us is greater than our sin. Yours is uncreated. Your sabr is uncreated. Your perfection is your uncreated. Your eternalness. All of your actions are uncreated. Me, by doing this one sin, or these 10 sins, or these thousands of sins, it's never going to be greater than your mercy and your sabr and your perfection and your eternalness. So, oh Allah, اغفر لي ما قدمت وما أخرت وما أسررت وما أعلنت, the inside and the outside, the private and the public, وما أسرفت, and all those things that I've transgressed myself in and been excessive in. وما أنت أعلم به مني, and even the things that I don't know about, oh Allah, أنت المقدم وأنت المؤخر لا إله إلا أنت. And I think بإذن we'll stop there and we'll finish the chapter next week. I ask Allah to make this beneficial for us all and give us the iman and tawfiq to act upon what we have heard, and Allah be pleased with us, and that He doesn't humiliate us, and that He accepts our deeds and multiplies it for us from His mercy and His compassion. هذا والله أعلم وصلى اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Any questions? You had a question? You've forgotten it.
Yeah. So, you know how you talked about that, loans and all that? Not many people can whip out 150k and buy a house. What would you do for that?
A person can't afford a house, so what does he do in that scenario?
Like, she plans that, if you're married and all that.
Is it allowed for him to take a loan? Now, like we've said here, taking a loan and a debt depends on the person's intention. If a person intends to worship Allah by it, then this is something which is good. That could be for a house, that could be for a car, it could be for clothes, it could be for anything. And the Prophet ﷺ has said that there are 3 people Allah has promised to support. Mujahid for the sake of Allah until he goes back home. The person who is protecting himself in chastity even though he's finding it very, very difficult, Allah will support him and make him get married. Allah will help him in this. And the 3rd one is the person who takes out a loan for the sake of Allah. I'm just paraphrasing it here. And Allah will help him to pay back his debt.
Like a mortgage.
So now a person takes out a loan. If he's doing it for the sake of Allah, Allah will help him, and this is not blameworthy. What is blameworthy where a person takes out loans and he doesn't have any intention or any plan or any strategy to pay it back, and he doesn't actually care about it. And the only reason why he takes it is not for the sake of Allah, it's for the sake of remaining in the dunya. That is what is blameworthy. So now, based on that understanding, if you understand that, then you have to apply that in a particular way. There is no set way of us saying, yes, let's all of us get mortgages. It doesn't work like that. Because some people do it for the sake of Allah, and some people don't do it for the sake of Allah. Some people want to do it for the sake of Allah, but realistically they're not able to pay it back, or they don't have the means, so they have to look for something else. So there is no flat way of a person saying that all finances are halal, and all loans are halal, and all mortgages are halal, unless it is something which is very, very clear cut. then it's very difficult for a person to say that, you know, this debt is, or specify the debt without understanding what the Sharia wants from us from when it comes to debts and loans. Wallahu a'lam. Barakallahu feek.
Just two questions. In the verse that you mentioned, that Iblis was really upset about, what was the ayah and the surah?
The surah is in Surah Al-Imran. The ayah number, I'll text you the ayah number, inshallah. If you look at where it says, وَسَارِعُوا إِلَىٰ مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ, from there, it is from there.
And the second question is, you know, when you mentioned about the shaitan's followers, Iblis's followers, and you mentioned that they're going to do something that they don't make tawbah from, and istighfar, can that also be known as like innovation, for example? Would that be something that they could be referring to as well?
Could the plots of Iblis refer to innovations when they are saying that they won't make tawbah and istighfar from? And this has been mentioned by the ulama, is that a person, when he sees a fault in the action that he is doing, he will make tawbah and istighfar from. But when it comes to innovation, he will not make istighfar from it because he don't think he's doing something wrong. So it applies to that, but it applies to everything. I mean, like we've said, it's a characteristic and not a specific action that they have said here. So now you can see their mentality here now. They're going to attack every single one of us in a different way. Including myself. Every single one of us is doing something where he thinks it's okay, but it's actually not okay. And it's upon us now to ponder and think and reflect and make dua and show our weakness with Allah. And this is part of asking for maghfirah. This is part of seeking ta'awudh to Allah and dua, because Allah is the one who can guide you in a way better than you can guide yourself. You can't sit there and make a spreadsheet and say, well, my tongue slipped 5 times today and I looked in the wrong direction 3 times today. It doesn't work like that. Hidayah is from Allah. Hidayah is from Allah. And with that, we supplicate for maghfirah, we make ta'awudh, and we have tawheed, and we increase in trying to understand the Quran and the Sunnah. And this is the reason why we're here, try to be better people. Through these kind of things, Allah will open a way. And there are many miracles that Allah has given, and I call them miracles because, like we said before, you being steadfast upon the Sirat al-Mustaqim is the biggest miracle that Allah has given to anyone. And these miracles Allah can open for anyone. So then you can turn around and say, well, you know what, I've been doing this all my life, and it's just an epiphany, like they say. It's just something that's come to me, and I've been doing this wrong all my life. I'm going to stop doing that from now on. And this is from Hidayah from Allah. It's not because of any kind of virtue that you have yourself. So this characteristic that they were talking about is a characteristic, and it's not a particular action. And one of the things that we learn from this also, it's not a particular gender and it's not a particular age group. I've said this before. What is seeking the dunya for you is different for seeking the dunya for somebody maybe in China or maybe in Africa, or maybe somebody who lives in our own society and communities, but he's younger or he's older. It's different. So for my children, if they wanted to sit in front of the TV all day, they'd love that. For me, I would feel very uncomfortable. Why? Has he done anything good? Has he showed any kind of development? Has he shown any kind of weakness to himself, to his parents, to Allah? Because right now they're accountable to us only, not with Allah. Allah's lifted the pen. But it's upon us now, isn't it? So now we have to nurture them if he's done something wrong. So has he done something of accountability? Has he learned anything from the religion which is going to be of khair to him? Has he proved that to be applied in his action? If he's not done any of that, and he's sat in front of the TV for 5 hours, 10 hours, some of them even worse than that I've heard, then that's seeking the dunya for that 5-year-old and 10-year-old. So, like I said, it's all about characteristics. They want to make you happy with your religion, so that you'll never make istighfar. Religion, I mean way of life, so that you're never making istighfar and tawbah, and you will think that this is the right way, and you're pleased with it, and this is the haqq. Irrespective of what you think the haqq is, whether the haqq is going to end you up in Jannah, or the haqq is going to help you have a life in the dunya, not even having any consequences in the akhirah. You just think that this is right. Allah protect us and our families and our loved ones, and unite us with the Anbiya and Siddiqeen, the Shuhada, and the pious on the Day of Judgment, and that He accepts it from us and all of our good deeds, and He keeps us united in our houses and our families until we meet Him, and protects us from the fitna that is happening outside, because